Good morning, everyone. Thank you for braving the weather coming out here today. I was asked to talk to you about the rights and duties of directors and owners. There's a whole lot of directors in the audience, so we'll kind of balance this out a little bit. But, you know, our office does a lot of, we represent associations, and a lot of the conflict that we see between boards and owners comes from a misunderstanding. And you know, a lot of times if people would do what they should do, take responsibility for what they should know, a lot of the conflict can be avoided. So I'm going to go through some of the things that owners and directors should be aware of so that hopefully you can make your association property a little more harmonious and keep things, you know, running smoothly. So I'll start with the owner's rights. Owners have the right to be treated fairly and with respect by the board and the association management. This is something, to me, is across the board. This is something you should do for everyone in your life. You treat them fairly and with respect. When you're dealing with difficult owners, sometimes that's hard to keep in mind. So from the owner side of it, don't be that difficult owner. Don't be the one who everyone sighs and is, you know, reluctant to deal with you just because of the way that you approach issues. Second is owners may attend and participate in board meetings, but the participation may be limited by meeting rules and or if a majority of a quorum of the board votes otherwise. Keep in mind that owners are allowed to participate in board meetings, but this doesn't mean that you can come in with your own agenda, interrupt the meeting, speak for 10 minutes on whatever topic you want to speak on. This is a board meeting, and it has to be treated like a business meeting. And the statute requires that the meetings be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order, and Rachel will talk more about that later. And so you want to make sure that the meetings are run efficiently so that all of the business can be conducted, and you know, owners are given that opportunity to participate, but it's appropriately. So if there's a motion up for discussion, you can participate in that, but you can't just come up and say, well, I want to talk about this now, and interrupt and try and bring your issues forth. A lot of meetings will have owners forums before or after. Those are appropriate times to bring things up. But again, keep in mind that this is a business meeting and there is business to conduct. I've done several annual meetings with Rachel, and I love it when she's there because she will keep things moving and doesn't put up with anyone, you know, trying to circumvent the rules. I've seen her cut speakers off. Excuse me, 2 minutes are up. Anyone have any objections to giving him 30 more seconds? You know, so she keeps it moving, and we appreciate that because it allows the board to get what it has to get done. Keep in mind that owners may not attend or participate in executive sessions. Executive sessions are held for a reason, and that's to conduct business that is not appropriate for all of the owners to participate in and be aware of. Owners are entitled to review the following records, and since there's so many directors in the audience, keep in mind that these are the records that the board needs to make available to the owners and it has to maintain. This is according to Hawaii Revised Statutes 514B, 154, and 154.5. This is for condominiums now. So if you are in a community association or a co-op, then your rules would be a little bit different, but this is for condos. First, you're entitled to the audit. If it's requested, the board must send an owner a copy of the audit. A lot of times at the annual meetings, they will have a copy of the audit available at check-in if the audit is available at that time. The budget, the board must adopt and distribute an annual budget to the owners. Contracts must be available for review by owners. These are contracts that are signed by the association. It does not mean that all owners are entitled to see all of the bids for a job. So if someone comes in and asks for the bid, you don't have to give that, and you shouldn't, because that's proprietary information. And a lot of the contractors will be very upset if you're giving out their bid information, because a competitor can get hold of it and use it against them. So these are contracts that are signed in place by the association. Financial records, ledgers, invoices, and delinquencies of 90 days or more must be available for review. So the association's most current financial statements must be provided to any unit owner, and this must be provided at no cost, or it can be loaned to them at a convenient location that's designated by the board. So you can say that your most current financial statements are available with your property manager, and your property manager has, make it available to owners who want to come in and review those documents. Insurance policies must be available for examination by owners. Okay. Association minutes, these are for your annual meetings. There are rules and regulations regarding how the minutes have to be approved. That's also in 514B154. And those minutes, after being approved, have to be available for review by owners. Board minutes have to be approved, and then they have to be made available. So, for example, minutes of executive sessions, though, are not made available to the owners because it would defeat the purpose of having an executive session. So, for example, if you're going into executive session to discuss an employment issue, that's not something that you want all of your owners to see if it's a disciplinary action or some issue dealing with an employment, because that's something you want to keep confidential. So putting those into your executive minutes and then making that available to owners would defeat that purpose. So those minutes are not made available to owners. Okay. The minutes of previous and current years, once approved for board meetings, must be made available to an owner at no cost or on a 24-hour loan at a convenient location. So again, it can be made available at your property management's office, or it can be transmitted to an owner within 15 days of receipt of the request, and a reasonable fee or administrative costs for the handling of the request can be charged to the owner making that request. So if the owner is requesting board minutes, keep in mind for you owners that you're going to have to pay for that. So they can charge you a reasonable cost, which is usually for a standard size of paper would be about $1 a page. The owner's list. The board managing agent or resident manager has to keep an accurate and current list of association members and their current addresses. The names and addresses of vendors under an agreement of sale should also be kept with that list. The list shall be made available to owners at cost, and any owner who is receiving it can be asked to provide an affidavit. Now, the affidavit is to assure that this list is only going to be used for association purposes, for personal use, and only for the purpose of things such as soliciting proxies, or providing information to other owners with respect to association matters. So if you are, say, wanting to advertise an event that your club is having, you can't go and request a copy of that owner's list and send out your flyers that way. That's inappropriate use of that owner's list, okay? The affidavit should also say that you are not going to provide this list to anyone else. And so if your uncle says, hey, I'm going to open up my new business, get me the list of all the members of your condo so that I can send out flyers to all of them advertising my grand opening, that's also not appropriate. So only for association use, okay? Owners are entitled to see proxies. So after the association meeting and not before, so you can't, 2 days before the association meeting, you can't go down to the management office and say, I want to see all the proxies that you've gotten in so far. They don't have to give that to you. But after the meeting is over, owners are allowed to view proxies, tally sheets, owner's check-in lists, and certificate of election. But that request has to be made within 30 days of the annual meeting. Okay, if you request it after, most likely they will be destroyed already, and it doesn't have to be provided to you. The statute says you have to make that request within 30 days. If you're asking for that information, you may also be required to provide an affidavit, again, stating that this is being requested for the in the best interest of the association, and that that you will pay for the administrative costs to provide that. The declaration, bylaws, house rules, sample original conveyance document, public reports, and amendments to all of those documents have to be made available to owners. They should be kept at the managing agent's office and provided to owners and others at a reasonable cost. Again, usually reasonable cost is equal to $1 per page. So think carefully if you're going to go down there and request 10 copies of your declaration, because if it's 50 pages long, you're going to be shelling out quite a bit of money to get those copies. Okay. Records in chronological order of the receipts and expenditures affecting the common elements. So these are expended receipts that you are entitled to view. Okay. Financial and other records needed to comply with requests for information and disclosures relating to the resale of units. So if you're selling your unit and your real estate agent needs to see certain information, you are entitled to get that from your association. All executed management agreements. Now, notice that it says executed. So these are not management agreements or bids or other information that you're getting in from other management companies. These are executed contracts that you're entitled to see. Copy of any contract, written job description, and compensation between the association and any person or entity retained by the association. So you are allowed to see employment contracts for the association, but keep in mind that the association has the right to redact certain information, and that's all spelled out in the statute. For example, Social Security numbers can be redacted. Sensitive information that is given in the statute. Owners may also elect new directors or recall directors who are not fulfilling their obligations. Okay, so these are all of the rights that owners have under the statute. Now let's get to the owner's responsibilities. First and foremost, owners should treat the directors, association management, association employees, and vendors fairly and with respect. Again, going back to the first right of the owners, you want to be treated fairly and with respect. Treat everyone else the same way. Okay, keep in mind that the directors of your association are your neighbors. These are people that you're going to have to live with. You're going to see them all the time. You don't want to start wars with them. It makes your living conditions very uncomfortable. Also keep in mind that these are people who are volunteering their spare time to serve you, to serve your association, and to do what's right for your project, to keep it running well. So keep it, just have that in the back of your mind that, hey, these people are working hard and they're working hard for me. And so when you deal with them fairly and, with some appreciation for all that they do for you. Keep in mind that if you are harassing employees or vendors who are being employed or contracted with the association, that you would maybe creating a hostile work environment, and this is putting the association at risk. So if you have an issue with them, take it to the board. Don't go and yell at the landscaping people because you don't like the way that they're trimming the trees. Keep in mind, again, that these are association employees or contractors, and you want to make sure that you're not creating a situation that the association is going to have to deal with through litigation or mediation. Okay. Owners should read and comply with the governing documents. This is very, very, very important. A lot of owners I know, when you're buying your property, you get a stack of documents to sign. Nobody goes through and reads them all before you sign them all. But your association documents are in there. You should take the time to read them, become familiar with your declaration, your bylaws, all the rules and regulations, because these are things that you're going to have to comply with. You have to live by these rules, and by knowing them, you can avoid putting yourself in a situation where you're violating them and are getting letters from our office. Okay. I'll give you an example of that. We had one situation where the owner went and painted the exterior of their house. Had no idea that there were certain paint colors that had to be used to paint the exterior. Now, the paint color was fairly close, but it wasn't the right color. And the owners came back and said, but it's our house. Why can't we paint it whatever color we want to? And the answer is because your rules say that you can't. So read your rules, know what you can and cannot do. Okay. Owners should pay the association common expenses and special assessments. Your association is like a business. They need those common assessments paid by all of the owners so that they can in turn pay their bills. They have to pay the landscapers. They have to pay all of the contractors that come in to paint your building and keep your building in good repair. So if you don't pay your assessments, they don't have the money to pay what they need to pay to the people keeping your project in good condition. Think of it like your paycheck. If you didn't get your paycheck in, it would be really hard for you to pay all of your bills, and it's the same for the association. Okay.